Welcome to the topic Business Organization. A business is an organization that uses economic resources or inputs to provide goods or services to customers in exchange for money or other goods and services. Business organization come in different types: sole proprietorship, partnership, and company. The company can either be run by public sector or private sector. Let's first discuss about sole proprietorship. A sole proprietorship is a business owned by only one person. It is easy to set up and is the least costly among all forms of ownership. The owner faces unlimited liability, that is, the creditors of the business may go after the personal assets of the owner if the business cannot pay them. The sole proprietorship form is usually adopted by small business entities. The advantages of this type of business organization is it is ease of formation and dissolution. That is, establishing a sole proprietorship can be as simple as printing up business cards or hanging a sign announcing the business. Taking work as a contract carpenter or freelance photographer. Typically, there are low startup cost and low operational overhead. So this kind of proprietorship are typically subject to fewer regulation. There is no corporate income taxes. Any income realized by a sole proprietorship is declared on the owner's individual income tax return. The disadvantages of this kind of business organization is unlimited liability. Owners who organize their business as a sole proprietorship are personally responsible for the obligation of the business, including actions of any employee representing the business. The next disadvantage is limited life. In most cases, if a business owner dies, the business dies as well. It may be difficult for an individual to raise capital. It's common for funding to be in the form of personal savings or personal loans. The next type of business organization is partnership. A partnership consists of two or more individuals in business together. Partnership may be as small as mom and pop type operations, or as large as some of the big deal or accounting firms that may have dozens of partners. There are different types of partnership: general partnership, limited partnership, and limited liability partnership. The basic differences stemming around a degree of personal liability and management control. The advantages of using this partnership kind of business organization is: the first advantage is synergy. There is clear potential for the enhancement of value resulting from two or more individuals combining strengths. Partnerships are relatively easy to form; however, considerable thought should be put into developing a partnership agreement at the point of formation. Partnership may be subject to fewer regulations than corporations. There is stronger potential of access to greater amounts of capital. No corporate income taxes. Partnership declare income from filing a partnership income tax return. Yet the partnership pays no taxes when this partnership tax return is filed. Rather, the individual partners declare their pro rata share of the net income of the partnership on the individual income tax returns and pay taxes at the individual income tax rates. The disadvantages of partnership is unlimited liability. General partners are individually responsible for the obligation of the business, creating personal risk. The second disadvantage is limited life A partnership may end upon the withdrawal or death of a partner. There is a real possibility of disputes or conflicts between partners which could lead to dissolving the partnership. This scenario enforces the need of a partnership agreement. Next business organization is company. A company is owned by shareholders who appoint directors to give direction to the business. The chief executive is the senior official within the company with responsibility for making major decisions. Specialist managers will be appointed to run the company on behalf of the board. A company is a legal body in its own right with an existence that is separate in laws from its owners. There are two companies, namely public sector enterprises and private sector enterprises. First, let's see about public sector enterprises. A public company can sell shares to the public and to financial institutions and have their shares traded on the stock exchange. The main advantage is that large amount of capital can be raised very quickly. One disadvantage is that control of the business can be lost by the original shareholders if large quantities of shares are purchased as part of a takeover bid. In order to create a public company, the directors must apply to the Stock Exchange Council, which will carefully check the accounts. The advantages of public sector enterprises are there is limited liability for the shareholders, the business has separate legal entity, also there is continuity even if any of the shareholders die. These kind of businesses can raise large capital as there is no limit to the number of shareholders. The shares of the business are freely transferable, providing more liquidity to its shareholders. The disadvantages of public sector enterprises are there are lots of legal formalities required for forming a public limited company. It is costly and time consuming. In order to protect the interests of the ordinary investor, there are strict controls and regulations to comply. These companies have to publish their accounts. The original owners may lose control. Public limited companies are huge in size and may face management problems such as slow decision making and industrialization problems. Next, the private sector enterprises. Private companies have limited after their name. They are typically smaller than public companies, and shares in a private company can only be bought and sold with permission of the board of directors. The shareholders have limited liability. The advantages of private sector enterprises are limited liability. It means that if the company experiences financial distress because of normal business activity, the personal asset of shareholders will not be at risk of being seized by creditors. Continuity of existence. Business not affected by the status of the owner. Minimum number of shareholders need to start the business are only 2. More capital can be raised as the maximum number of shareholders allowed is 50. The next advantage is scope of expansion is higher because easy to raise capital from financial institutions at the advantage of limited liability. The disadvantages of private sector enterprises are growth may be limited because maximum shareholders allowed are only 50. And also, the shares in a private limited company cannot be sold or transferred to anyone else without the agreement of the other shareholders. Thank you.